My name is Jacques Pasquier, and you will find out from my accent that I am French. I come from a very, what I would call, privileged background. I came to the States, began working at General Motors, and was not aware of the reality of the United States. And it's interesting that I came with this image, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, of a wonderful country where everything was possible, and never realized that it was a world where there was a lot of poverty, that there were a lot of injustices. So, as I say, I was living in a bubble. When I came out and finished working at GM, thanks to the community of St. John Fisher, which is for me where I can come and talk about my understanding of the gospel. And I think it's through St. John Fisher that I found this opportunity. It was just beginning. They were looking for people who could had a car, could transport food, and I did that with a couple of other volunteers who were very helpful. So,
well, I'm not sure I am one of the founders, but I have been involved very quickly with CCRT when CCRT started in 2004. I think there are two main reasons for me to get involved. The first one, I am from the community of St. John Fisher, and I spent a certain amount of time just trying to be aware of issue of justice. And I have always been struck by the fact that 5 miles from here, there is a different world. I spent 25 years in GM, and after my retirement in 2003, I suddenly realized that I live in a bubble for 25 years. Now, I was not born in the United States. I came in the United States at the age of 40. So I was not aware, I guess, of both racial issues as well as financial discrimination which exists here. I heard about it, and I was aware, but it was all intellectual. It was not experiential. So when the opportunity of volunteering for CCRT, and at the beginning it was very much 2 or 3 people getting involved, and I remember we had 2 cars. We were going to get the food from St. Hugo because they provided food, bringing that to CCRT. It was very, very small. It took us probably a couple of hours, on Monday or Tuesday morning. But for me, it was the first time that I was able to experience how the world of Pontiac was living. So it was experiencing, first of all, that some people are very much in need. And it was day to day what they needed. And we were providing some food and some clothes. It was very minimum. I think I became more aware of also that the people living in Pontiac very often are caught up in a circle of poverty from which it's very difficult to get out. The most important experience for me was to learn not to be judgmental. And I found that difficult at the beginning because it's very easy to criticize people and say, why don't they work? Why don't they kind of begin taking care of themselves? And I realized that it took me years to come to a point where I began not to be judgmental. I still am from time to time, but I think the biggest learnings that I had for me personally was understanding that people are caught up in this circle of poverty, and it's very difficult to get out of it. CCRT, especially through the work of Barb and Suzanne, became the point of salvation for him. He was able to find in CCRT a community who was ready to accept him as he was. For me, I got to know him right at the beginning because he volunteered and kind of helped us. And it was a whole learning experience in the sense that what I talk about being non-judgmental, I think I learned from him. I learned from him that what he was going through, what he was dealing with, and for me it was such an awareness. You know, I still very much in contact with him, and so it's not so much the sense of what we were able to give him materially. It was not the food, it was not. I think for him it was finding a community who was ready to listen to him, to accept him like he was, not being judgmental, and that's what made a big difference for him. And sometimes it takes it's many years before people can get up, and I think I understand that, and I'm okay with it. When at the beginning I would have probably be much more judgmental. One more aspect of CCRT I want to talk about, and is a sense of community of the people working there. So there is a client, the people who, but there is a community of volunteers, which I think for me is very important, because I don't feel that, first of all, I'm learning from them. I don't feel I'm alone doing it. I'm doing it as part of this community. And what is amazing, when we started maybe 2 or 3 people going on Monday morning, you know, and now I don't know how many volunteers, we have 60, 70 volunteers. And you find the whole people who share kind of the same vision of what it could be.
There must be God behind the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for me it's very much linked to my understanding of what the gospel is about, and what the community of St. John Fisher has helped me to become more aware of. Well, first of all, I'm getting old, so I am not as involved as I was probably 5 or 10 years ago. And part of it, you know, there are certain things I cannot do. But it remains very much that my experience of being at CCRT, being once a week, you know, and spending the day, is very much related to my called spiritual life, quote unquote. I always had this sense of we live in a world which is not what God expects of this world. So my spirituality is what can I do to change it? What can I do? What's my little part in it? And trying to do that in CCRT, I think is very important for me. Now, I don't do it alone. And again, I am part of a community. And the fact that maybe once a month on Sunday, you know, we are with a group of what we call Justice and Peace, we can talk about it. We can talk about these experiences. I think it's extremely important for me, and so I'm grateful. You know, I'm sure the clients are grateful for what we do. I think I'm very grateful to have this experience, which helped me to live, I think, my life. I think first of all, getting volunteers in working in CCRT has been a remarkable experience. I mean, it's personal relationships, but it's also people who hear about it and say, you know, I want to do something. I mean, it's amazing, you know, 90% of us are retirees, quote unquote. And when you're retired, suddenly you say, what do I do with my life? When you felt that you're very important when you were working, you know, you were making a difference. When you come to retirement, suddenly you are, what do I do with it? So I think it has been pretty easy to attract retirees and say, join us. And we do that through personal relationships and so on. I think the clients, it's more difficult. I think CCRT is well known in Pontiac. And just come on Monday morning and you will see the people waiting really to be able to talk to somebody, being looking for direct help or looking for somebody who listen to them. I think it's well known. I am not sure what I can do to make it more, no. But what I can do is really make people aware of what CCRT is doing in our community in St. John Fisher or in Rochester Hill, making sure people understand that we live in a world which is divided and that we cannot be in Rochester and looking at Pontiac and have such a difference. There is 75, between the two communities, but there is only 5 miles between the two communities. And we tend to forget that.